Sound, attention. Please stand for the posting of the colors and the singing of the national anthem, presented by the St. James High School Concert Choir, under the direction of Mr. Kenneth Bedwell. Colors are being posted by the St. James Army JRTC award-winning color guard, under the command of Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Sean Shrewsbury. State flag carried by Cadet Sergeant Jacob Harnish. National Colors Rifle Bearer, Cadet Staff Sergeant Carlos Beltran. And State Flag Rifle Bearer, Cadet Corporal Billy Davidson. Post colors. Will cadets, students, and guests please be seated? Members of the St. James Wind Ensemble, under guest direction of Mr. Kenneth Bedwell, will now present a salute to the armed forces. We ask that our veterans stand and remain standing, if able, when their service song is played. Good morning. I'm Cadet Captain Nicole Mitchell, Battalion Executive Officer, Commander of the Unarmed Drill Team, reigning JRTC Military Ball Queen, Summer Camp Distinguished Honor Graduate, and today's narrator. At this time, I would now like to introduce today's guest speaker, Colonel Steve Salucci, presently St. James High School's JRTC Senior Army Instructor. Colonel Salucci is a 30-year Army combat veteran of operations Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom. He has served with distinction in assignments ranging from Armor Platoon Leader and Brigade Commander to Commander of the NATO Coalition Forces in Macedonia and Deputy Chief of Staff Personnel, 5th Corps. His major awards include the Bronze Star, the Legion of Merit 2nd Oak Leaf Cluster, the Defense Superior Service Medal, and most recently, the Department of the Army Outstanding Civilian Service Medal, for selection as Cadet Command's Instructor of the Year. Colonel Salucci is Airborne Major qualified and a distinguished military graduate of the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina. His son, Specialist Promotable Josh Salucci, recently served in Afghanistan as a military intelligence analyst in Operation Enduring Freedom, and is currently assigned to the 1st of the 5th Infantry Battalion, Fort Wainwright, Alaska. Colonel Salucci's father-in-law, Master Sergeant McDaniel, is also here with us today. Please join me at a round of applause for Colonel Steve Salucci, our Senior Army Instructor.
Let me first introduce the oldest veteran with us today, Ed Emmett, U.S. Army World War II veteran, 89 years old. And joining him is our youngest veteran today, Specialist Promotable Joshua Fritter, U.S. Army, Fort Gordon, a Geospatial Intelligence. 70 years ago, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed what many historians consider the greatest social legislation ever passed by the U.S. Congress. As popular as the GI Bill remains today, it took the horrific cost and bloodshed of World War II to remind many Americans just how great a debt is owed to our veterans. In 1932, thousands of World War I veterans camped out in Washington, D.C. to petition their government for bonuses they felt were owed. Their campsite was forcibly overrun by the U.S. Army, and at least 2 veterans were killed by the police. President Franklin Roosevelt told the American Legion National Convention in 1933 that, quote, "No person, because he wore a uniform, must thereafter be placed in a special class of beneficiaries, over and above other citizens," unquote. While Roosevelt would later prove himself to be a great wartime commander-in-chief, what he and others failed to realize at the time is that veterans were not asking to be part of a quote-unquote special class. They just wanted a shot at the American dream they fought so hard to defend. Most Americans profess to truly love our veterans, especially at gatherings like this on Veterans Day and Memorial Day. And while their feelings are usually sincere, it is important to remember that veterans are defending us 365 days a year. The heroism that has been demonstrated time and again by veterans from the American Revolution to the current global war on terrorism is sometimes unnoticed by those of us who enjoy the security that their sacrifice has provided. Army Staff Sergeant Clinton Ramisha has seen war at its very worst. While serving at Combat Outpost Keating in Afghanistan, he and his comrades awakened to an attack by an estimated 300 enemy fighters on October 3rd, 2009. According to his Medal of Honor citation, Staff Sergeant Ramisha took out an enemy machine gun team and engaged in taking out a second when he received shrapnel wounds from a rocket-propelled grenade, but he continued to fight on. He killed at least 3 other Taliban fighters and directed air support to destroy 30 other enemy fighters. After receiving the nation's highest military medal, Staff Sergeant Ramisha said he felt conflicted. The joy, he said, comes from recognition of us doing our jobs as soldiers on distant battlefields, but is countered by the constant reminder of the loss of our battle buddies, my soldiers, my friends. Staff Sergeant Ramisha's attitude is not hard to find among the living Medal of Honor recipients. They will never forget the sacrifice of their friends, and neither will the Gold Star families who will have to cope without the embrace of their loved ones. The innocence of their grieving children will be challenged by the dramatic change affecting the balance of security and comfort in their family routine. The hearts of these families will feel the sharp sting of that loss, leaving them only with the memories of their loving mom or dad. Life as they have known it will be much harder for them from now on. Our debt to these heroes can never be repaid, but our gratitude and respect must last forever. For many veterans, our nation was important enough to endure long separations from their families, miss the births of their children, freeze in sub-zero temperatures, bake in wild jungles, lose limbs, and far too often lose their lives. Military spouses have had to endure career interruptions, frequent changes of address, and a disproportionate share of parental responsibilities. The children often had to deal with changes in schools, separation from friends, and hardest of all, the uncertainty of whether or not mom or dad will live through the next combat tour. Warriors need advocates, and that is why we are here today. We are here to serve veterans, their families, and our communities. Veterans need each other. More importantly, our country needs our veterans. You cannot fight a war without veterans. And while the utopian idea of a society without war is appealing, let us not forget that wars have liberated slaves, stopped genocide, and toppled terrorists. Stephen Ambrose once wrote, "America's wars have been like rungs on the ladder by which it rose to greatness. No other country has triumphed so long, so consistently, or on such a vast scale through force of arms." It has often been said that without our veterans, Americans would be speaking Russian, German, or perhaps Japanese. Regardless of which view of alternative history you take, we do know that without our veterans, America would not be America as we know it. And as we look at the Middle East today, we know that there's a large, dangerous, and committed group of fanatics that wants us dead. And while ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and other terrorists may lack the conventional weapons of Nazi Germany or Imperial Japan, they are every bit as evil in their intentions. Those who defend us from our enemies must be supported. Whether their service was in Baghdad or Beirut, we need to serve veterans as well as they serve us, even when the guns have temporarily stopped firing. Veterans don't ask for much. They do not want to be in a special class, but benefits are a mere drop in the bucket compared to the financial and the human cost of war. And while not all veterans see war, all who have served in the military have expressed a willingness to fight if called for. You can show your support for these great men and women by hiring a veteran in your workplace, visiting a VA hospital, or donating to a veterans program. Companies should understand that it is smart business to hire veterans. And when members of the Guard and Reserve deploy, it is America's business to ensure that their civilian careers do not suffer. Homelessness is another issue that affects veterans disproportionately. Too often today, tattered citizens on the street were yesterday's toast of the town in a crisp uniform with rows of shiny medals. This is hardly the thanks of a grateful nation. We can do better. We must do better. Historians have said that Dwight Eisenhower was prouder of being a soldier than he was of being the president. And while relatively few veterans ever reach the rank of general, pride in one's military service is a bond shared by nearly all who have served. This pride is on display on every obituary page in the country, where military service, regardless of how many decades have passed and subsequent achievements reached, is mentioned with the death notice of nearly every deceased veteran. Can any CEO or distinguished Ivy League graduate truly claim to have more responsibility than a 21-year-old squad leader walking patrol in Afghanistan? Fewer than 10% of Americans can claim the title veteran. Far less than 1% of our population is currently defending us in the global war on terrorism. And yet many seem intent on trying to balance the federal budget by diminishing the quality of life programs designed for the families who have already disproportionately made these sacrifices. Veterans have given us freedom, security, and the greatest nation on earth. It is impossible to put a price on them. We must remember them. We must appreciate them. God bless you for all being here. God bless our veterans. And God bless America. I salute you.
Sergeant First Class Patrick Curry and Staff Sergeant Willie Davis, assisted by the JROTC Color Guard, will now lay a wreath in memory of all veterans, living and dead, who have served our country. Since 1917, over 40 million service members have served in our military. 654,000 Americans died in battle, and 1.5 million were wounded from World War I through the current war on terrorism. More than 22 million American veterans are still living today. We will now present each war, beginning with World War I, and lay a rose in memory of all veterans who served. We ask that our veterans stand during the narration of the war on wars in which they served. Representing World War I is Cadet William Dees. He is accompanied by Savannah Fuller, student body president. What began as a local European war between Austria and Serbia was transformed into a general European struggle by declaration of war against Russia on August 1st, 1914. Eventually becoming global, it included 32 nations, to include Great Britain, France, and the United States. From 1917 to 1918, 4.7 million Americans served in World War I. 204,000 were wounded, and 116,516 lost their lives. America's last World War I veteran, Frank Buckles of Charleston, West Virginia, passed away in February of 2011 at the age of 110. Representing World War II is Cadet Clem Corton. He is accompanied by Savannah Fairchild, Junior Class President. World War II, in terms of lives lost and material destruction, was one of the most devastating wars in U.S. history. It began in 1939 as a European conflict between Germany and an Anglo-French coalition, but eventually widened to include most of the nations of the world. It ended in 1945, leaving a new world order dominated by the United States and the Soviet Union. From 1940 to 1945, 16.1 million Americans served in World War II. There were 671,846 wounded, and 405,399 lost their lives. Today, the median age of an American World War II veteran is 93. Fewer than 850,000 American World War II veterans are still living today. Representing the Korean War is Cadet Amber Canelo. She's accompanied by Nicholas Emmons, Senior Class President. A military struggle fought on the Korean Peninsula from June 1950 to July 1953. This war began between South and North Korea after the North's invasion of the South. The conflict swiftly developed into a limited international war involving the United States and 19 other nations. 5.7 million Americans served in the Korean War. 103,284 were wounded, and 54,246 lost their lives. About 2 million Korean War veterans are still living today. Representing the Vietnam War is Cadet Stephen McDaniel. He is accompanied by Logan Finley, Senior Class Vice President. For years, the Vietnamese struggled for their independence from France during the First Indonesia War. At the end of this war, the country was temporarily divided into North and South Vietnam. North Vietnam came under the control of the Vietnamese communists, who had opposed France and who aimed for a unified Vietnam under communist rule. The United States became involved in the war to prevent the spread of communism throughout Southeast Asia. From 1964 to 1975, 8.7 million Americans served in Vietnam. 153,303 were wounded, and over 58,000 lost their lives. About 7 million Vietnam veterans are still living today. Representing the Persian Gulf War, known as Desert Shield, Desert Storm, is Cadet Tyler Reed. He is accompanied by Jasmine Robinson, Junior Class Vice President. This war got its beginning in 1990 when Iraqi forces invaded and occupied Kuwait. The war culminated in fighting in January and February 1991 between Iraq and an international coalition of forces led by the United States. This is the first war where women were recognized as being in actual combat. From 1990 to 1991, 2.3 million Americans served in Desert Storm. 467 were wounded and 1,972 lost their lives. About 2.1 million Desert Storm veterans are still living today. Representing the War on Terrorism is Cadet Molly Manser. She is accompanied by Adam Scott, Student Body Events Coordinator. On September 11, 2001, the world as we know it changed forever. The most devastating terrorist attack in world history was made on the World Trade Center buildings in New York, the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and failed Flight 93 crashing in a field in Pennsylvania. Over 4,800 American lives were lost, and the dollar amount of property damage was in the billions.
Center, face, forward, march.
The war on terrorism continues today in Iraq, Afghanistan, and around the world. Once again, our military, like the veterans before them, have been called upon to serve their country. 6,639 U.S. service members have died since the war began, and over 50,000 have been wounded. These numbers continue to rise. It is by their dedication, commitment, and sacrifice that we continue to enjoy the freedom that we are so accustomed to in this great nation. Our nation stands unified with them. We honor you today as well. Color Guard, please bring out the fallen soldier tribute. Our final tribute is for the fallen comrades of our veterans. Sergeant First Class Roger Batchelor and members of the U.S. Army National Guard will now pay tribute to all fallen soldiers. The empty combat boots and rifle symbolize the ultimate sacrifice of those who could not be with us today. Please stand for the playing of taps by Becky Kavanik and Ethan Molden as we honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for this great nation. Thank you. Everyone, please be seated. At this time, Colonel Flucci will say a few closing remarks.
First, let me take this opportunity to thank the many veterans and their families for attending today's ceremony. Would all veterans please rise and face our students behind you? Please do that. Thank you, veterans. Please be seated. On behalf of Mr. Cannell, our principal, many thanks to our student body representatives, the chorus, the wind ensemble, the National Guard, Marines, Color Guard, fellow teachers, and staff veterans for their outstanding efforts for today's ceremony. Veterans and families, you are welcome to stay and meet with our cadets who are aligned along the walls following the ceremony. Again, thank you. God bless you, and God bless this great nation.